Betty Crocker was an innovation in the world of advertising by becoming the first advertising campaign starring a woman figure, by speaking out and supporting women's rights on her radio show, and by standing as an independent, innovative image of an American woman from the 1920s to the present. Washburn Crosby of Minneapolis, Minnesota was the creator of Betty Crocker. Washburn Crosby was a branch of General Mills, and their main product was gold medal flour. In 1921, Washburn Crosby held a competition, and when the contestants sent in their entries, they also included hundreds of letters asking questions about gold medal flour products. Now, at that time, Washburn Crosby had only a small amount of male staff to answer the letters, so they hired a team of women to answer the letters. And for a more personal response, the letters would all be signed by one woman. A name would be needed to sign the letters, so Betty was chosen because it's an approachable, cheery name, and the surname, Crocker, was chosen in order to honor William G. Crocker, one of the founders of Washburn Crosby. Thus, in 1921, Betty Crocker was born. 5'2", eyes of blue, but oh, what those 5 foot can do. Has anybody seen my gal? Well, hello everyone. I'm Betty Crocker, America's favorite advertising campaign. Well, I guess you should say that I'm the first advertising campaign in America starring a woman. Image-wise, I represent what the average woman of America looks like. Now, in the 1920s, women had just come back from wartime rations, women had the freedom to vote, and they were also interested in education. In the 1920s, 47% of college applicants were women. Our corsets were gone and our hemlines were raised. Now, for me, the 1920s marked the beginning of my role as America's favorite advertising campaign. In 1924, Washburn Crosby purchased a small radio station and named it WCCO. I had my own radio shows, such as the Betty Crocker Cooking School and the Betty Crocker Service Program. At that time, there were 6 million radios in use across the nation. The Betty Crocker Service Program covered topics such as housekeeping, baking, cooking, and even dating. But most importantly, gold medal flour. In 1929, America fell to the Great Depression. Between 1929 and 1932, the average income in American households dropped 40%. In the 1930s, 3 of my weekly broadcasts featured advice in making ends meet during the Depression. I even put out a free pamphlet describing meal planning and budgeting of food. In the 1930s, 1 in 3 women worked outside the home. I'm in awe that some women are able to have a family and a job. I even said on my radio show that if a woman should choose, she should be able to have a career and be able to take care of her family. In 1932, I had my first official portrait drawn. I was pictured in red and white. The average woman of America was more concerned about putting food on the table as opposed to curling her hair and fussing over their looks, and this influenced my image. I had a stern-looking face and streaks of gray in my hair. He's a boogie-woogie bugle boy from Company B. The 1940s marked the beginning of the war years. In 1941, America entered World War II. It was not only the soldiers' job to fight, but there was also a fight on the home front. The jobs that the men had left when they went to war needed to be filled, so we women stepped up to the plate to work. All day long, whether rain or shine, she's a part of the assembly line. She's making history, working for victory. She's Rosie, the Riveter. But this was not the most common way American women did their part. In 1944, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt issued a statement to all women of America. He said, "The eyes of the nation are upon you." This signified that American women would need to do their part in their own households to help the war effort. This is the consumer's pledge that was issued to all American homes. It stated, "I will buy carefully, I will waste nothing, I will take good care of the things I have." And I, Betty Crocker, felt that it was my own personal responsibility to make sure that American families lived up to this pledge. So I spoke out in support of the Starve the Garbage Can campaign, and the Office of War Information assigned me as the daily host of Our Nation's Rations. My popularity was growing, and in 1945, I was named the 2nd most trusted woman in America, behind only Eleanor Roosevelt. In 1945, the war ended, and the men returned home and took back their jobs. And again, my role changed back to being Betty, the advisor for earning his heart, through his stomach. Can she bake a cherry pie, Billy boy, can she bake a cherry pie, charming Billy? She can bake a cherry pie as fast as a cat can blink an eye, but she's a young thing and cannot leave her mother. In the 1950s, young things were really getting married, and the average marriage age dropped to age 20. Women were expected to take care of their booming families, maintain a house with a picket fence, and leave their jobs. Women were also becoming less interested in education, and the proportion of women attending college from the 1920s to the 1950s dropped 10%. Because women's independence was regressing, I was becoming more important to the women of America. Women had added responsibilities in their home, so that led to the women sending hundreds of letters asking questions. Women were content in the home, but the times they were changing. In the 1960s, due to the popularity of prepackaged food, such as my bake mix, women had more freedom away from the stove. America was experiencing a youthquake, and youth was growingly becoming glorified. Why, I even lost 10 to 15 years off my look. They took the streaks of gray out of my hair and smoothed the wrinkles upon my face. Along with women's newfound image, women were increasingly becoming unsatisfied and being tied to the home. Now, in the 1970s, women were going back to work in droves, and the media was even capitalizing upon women's newfound freedom, such as an ad for Angele perfume. I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in the pan, and never, never, never let you forget you're a man, 'cause I'm a woman. In the wake of the success of Betty Friedan's A Feminine Mystique, Gloria Steinem published Ms. Magazine in 1971. Women were demanding equal rights and equal opportunities, especially in the workplace. And I, Betty Crocker, was right there along with them. I provided the working women of America with quick baking mixes and easy recipes to help their busy lives. Now, in the 1980s, I ran a bit of a risque ad campaign. The ads featured handsome young men licking chocolate frosting off a spoon singing, "You're a real sweet talker, Betty Crocker." 1996 marked my 75th birthday, and I was in need of a drastic makeover. General Mills held an essay competition about why women today embody Betty Crocker. The top 75 essays were chosen, and photos of the 75 essay winners were then computer-generated into my new portrait. The women ranged from age 20 to age 83, and they were diverse in their ethnicity. The new Betty Crocker had an olive skin tone and brown eyes for the first time ever. The Wall Street Journal called it the wildest facelift in history. I'm every woman, it's all in me. Anything you want done, baby, it's all in me. I stood as an independent, innovative image of an American woman. I spoke out in support of women's rights on my advertising campaign, and I even broke the gender barrier in advertising. Who knows what's in store for my future? But for now, you can catch me on Twitter.